Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here again today at Aimpoint headquarters in Malmo, Sweden, taking a look at Project ICE. This is an Aimpoint developmental project that never made it to market. And I think it's one that had a lot of potential. Honestly, I think this would still be kind of cool today. It's interesting both from a technological engineering perspective and also from a design and artistic perspective. I really like the way it looks. Now, Aimpoint had a designer in the late 1990s. This was a project that was run approximately 1998, 1999. They had a designer who was interested in having sort of a more aesthetic, a more artistic design to some of their products, and he came up with this. But there's also an interesting engineering element to it. So let me show you up close. We actually have 3 incremental versions of this prototype optic here to take a look at, which is really cool. And I'm going to start with the earliest one. So to begin with, this is a really kind of fluid design of optic. It's not, straight lines and perfectly round circles. It has a more organic look to it. And this was going to be manufactured out of formed or cast aluminum instead of machined tube. So that allows them to very easily make kind of organic shapes. Then where the engineering element comes in is that this was going to be made as 2 independent modules here. This was the optics tube and this was the electronics, well, not so much tube, but element. So this piece would have both the front and rear lenses built into it, fixed in place. It would be relatively simple. It would be rugged. There's nothing moving around inside in this element that can be damaged or have problems. That includes the collimating lens, so the part that actually makes it into an aiming device, a very specifically shaped and angled lens fixed in the front of this optics tube. Then the electronics package has, of course, the battery compartment, the electronic circuitry, and it has the LED in this. So you can see there's a hole in the side of the rear element. The LED is going to sit right here, and when you mount these 2 pieces together, the LED pokes through into the optics tube. All of your zeroing is done using dials mounted in these 2 spaces, and it's zeroed by moving the LED around. So you've got all of your complex moving parts and electronics in this, and you've got a nice simple rugged optics tube here. Compare that to the way all of Aimpoint's other optics were built at the time, which was to have one outer body and one inner tube, the inner tube mounting both the collimating lens and the LED, and that entire inner tube being moved inside the main housing tube. That meant that your field of view was a lot smaller than the actual body tube because you had to have the second layer inside to allow it to be zeroed. ICE, there we go, ICE gives you a really wide field of view. The wall thickness here that's obscured is really pretty minimal because all the mechanics are offset over here, down, and on the side out of the way. So your battery compartment was up here. This was the power brightness settings, and then these 2 are your elevation and windage adjustments, which you can see it on this one. Move that little LED head inside there. The mount is built into the base of the optics tube, so it's integral. This keeps it mounted really nice and low. And then here's pretty much what the final product would have looked like. This one's a little more finished out. They also, they did some extra cool elements to it, like these scope caps, lens caps, that don't quite fit right now, but you've got lens caps that fold down, and when not in use, they don't just sit up, but they actually rotate inward to be out of the way and out of your field of view. So I think there was a lot of potential to this. There you go, Project ICE. So I think this is pretty cool. Stylistically, I think this could be a perfectly viable concept today. I think it's not, like, the size still works today. It gives you a really nice big field of view. And I think having the optics and the mechanics sort of segregated from each other still would, like, I'm no red dot manufacturing expert, but it seems to me that this this engineering system, this setup, would still make sense today and could still have some real benefits today. There are a couple different elements that contribute to Project ICE never making it all the way to market. One of them is just a preference at the time in the late 90s in the general consumer public for ring mounts instead of integrated, built-in Picatinny rail mounts. And that's interesting to me because it's kind of the opposite today. I think a lot of people look at ring mounts as sort of old-fashioned and obsolete, and they like the idea of an integrated built-in mount. And it has some fundamental, some practical benefits. It keeps a scope like this lower down on the gun than you could possibly get it with ring mounts. The other and perhaps more significant issue for Project ICE is that this took place at the same time that Aimpoint was dramatically scaling up and was working really hard on US military contracts. So this takes place just a year or two after the Aimpoint Comp-M had won the trials to become the US M68 Close Combat Optic, the first red dot purchased and issued for general use by the US Army. It was a huge contract for Aimpoint. It was a huge, required them to scale up the business in order of magnitude, and it really took all of their time and attention. And one can certainly understand why they would want to focus on that work and make sure that they got it right. This was fundamental to the company's future growth. And as a result, some of the more speculative and maybe a little more artsy projects like ICE here got short shrift and ultimately got canceled for lack of attention. There wasn't really anything fundamentally wrong with this project. It just was perhaps a bit ahead of its time, and it wasn't in the right place at the right time. So it lost out to the work that, frankly, put Aimpoint really on the map for modern military forces. Probably better for Aimpoint in the long run that they made that choice. They made the right choice. But it is unfortunate that a project like this fizzled out as a result. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. A big thanks to Aimpoint for giving me access to their prototypes for Project ICE and being willing to share a project with me and with you that didn't actually make it all the way to market. A lot of companies aren't willing to share what might be perceived as failures, but I think these can be really interesting projects to look at. Hopefully you agree. Thanks for watching. Are you totally sick of having to sit through YouTube's ads on videos like this? Well, you could pay YouTube for YouTube Premium, or you could join the Forgotten Weapons Patreon and help support Forgotten Weapons at the same time that you get completely ad-free videos from me. Forgotten Weapons Patreon members at every pledge level receive an emailed link to a completely ad-free video every time I post a video. So if you'd like to get videos an hour before they actually publish and without any of the ads, head over to patreon.com/forgottenweapons, links in the description text below. Sign up. We have some other perks at other different pledge levels, things like being able to submit questions for the monthly Q&A video, and at the $20 pledge level, getting early access to videos as soon as I actually upload them, which is typically 3 to 4 weeks before they publish. So if you want to help support Forgotten Weapons, if you want to get rid of all of the ads in your Forgotten Weapons video feed and maybe get some other cool perks as well, check it out. There might be something there for you. Thanks.